Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? It's not going to be me. I'm not going to be the one who complains. Things are going great. We're trying to figure out the new systems. I think I need a intro song. I miss the intro song all of a sudden. We like the little pause before we went live. It felt awkward without it this morning. I am going to be putting up the daily sunrise photo beforehand. That should be fun. We should be getting some good content out of the sun, right? Why not? Good morning, Awakeners, says Noha Simsa. Happy Monday indeed. Escape the Matrix. Yo, Chatelet. Hope all the dads had a happy Father's Day. We sure did. Known unto God are all his works from the beginning of the world. Acts 15:18. Morning, y'all. Morning, Charlosky. Chef Zero says God's goal concerning man is that man walk uprightly, be merciful, and walk humbly with God. That goal is the same from eternity to eternity. We'll talk a little bit about that today, Chef Zero. We like the uprightly, merciful, humbly with God. Blessings, fellow Vampians. Indeed, everyone, we are having a great time. So, like I said, it was, we're trying to figure out the new systems. We're not going to be going for long today, even though there is quite a bit of news to talk about. We're going to be going through all of it. Wake Up Gang is back, Charlosky. We never went anywhere. We took off Juneteenth. We are so back, Terrence. We are so back. So we're going to be shorter today, so we're going to get used to the new system. It was a little harder getting the show ready this morning, to be honest, just because it's the old system. Going back to the old system, the system that we got used to with the Roxham broadcasts is no longer. We're not going to be sharing a bunch of videos, though we do have a video to share today, and we're not going to be going for 2 hours every morning. We're going to be going for something more like 40 minutes to an hour, something along those lines. We will be starting on time, mostly. The era before, when you all got used to 10 minutes late or sometimes 15 minutes late, was mostly me dealing with producers. We don't have producers anymore because there's other shows, and then the other show has to end and they have to run the ads, and there was a lot of that going on. So I stopped taking the 9 a.m. start time seriously because of the producers. It wasn't really in my hands. Many times, just like you, I was sitting here waiting for the show to start. So we'll be going back to the relatively consistent 9 a.m. starts. We'll be more disciplined about it all. So if you guys all remember the era before Roxham, it was rare that I would hit like more than a 5-minute tardiness. Even though we talk about tards a lot around here, we don't want to be a tard. We don't want to be tardy like Jerome Powell. We're not tarded. We are on time, and we're not too late. So there you go. As we all know, tard means late, right? Tro-tard. So there you go. The core awakeners are collecting. Wakey awakeners. You got it. Good morning, Nolan and Great Awakening crew. Here's my new Scotland versus Haiti video. Is that happening, Scott? No, you're in Boston, Jack2K. Congratulations. Way to go. Have fun in Boston. Congrats on the new show and format. Thank you, Standing Plane. We're happy about it. Good morning, plebs. How was my Juneteenth holiday? What did I do on Juneteenth exactly? Did I do Friday? That was so exciting. Oh, I went to the movies. Yeah, that's one of the things I did. Or was that Saturday? No, I think that was Friday. We had an exceptionally rainy couple of days here. So with all the rain, it wasn't that easy to get things done. On Saturday, we got absolutely blasted in the rain. On Friday, indeed, I did go to the movies with my children on Juneteenth because a lot of rain again. So we were also drowning out there on Friday. So we saw the Star Wars movie, by the way, in case you're wondering. Wasn't so bad. It was a little boring, that's for sure. But it was a good father-son movie. I went for it partly because of Tom Luongo's recommendation that it's a parent-child type of movie, and I did find that I liked that part of the movie. That if there was any story to it, because it was really obviously a TV show they turned into a movie, so there was no 2-hour narrative arc that had you drawn into the core story and the plot. There really wasn't much of a plot. It was like this guy did something and that guy did something and blah blah blah. And then it was sort of one little stage set and mini narrative after the other. But if you were to draw out a overall narrative, it was the first half of the movie was really more the Mandalorian being the dad, and the second half was a lot more about the little Yoda, baby Yoda, being the child. So it wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. Nothing woke at all in it. So we like that, and it was not bad. Definitely should have been a TV show, not worth but there's so few films out in cinemas today, you might as well go take it all in. So me and the kids had fun at the movies. Good activity for a rainy day, and we got to walk there because you can take the tunnels through Montreal, so that's what we did. It was pretty good. Speaking of Father's Day, let's have a sip and talk about what the fake news said about Father's Day this weekend. It was pretty good stuff. So indeed, Bitcoin, we're doing great. 64,000 US trash tokens per coin, and the sun is up, everyone. We've got maximum sunrise. Let's have a coffee and talk about what's new. You're going to love some of these funny stories for Father's Day. Excellent Father's Day content. Thank you to the New York Times and other publications. So here's the Google search yesterday. If you decided to Google search Father's Day and the New York Times, it ended up giving some really funny results. Here's the first one. Is it really the first one? Maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. Oh, no, there it is. No, that's not it either. Yes, there it is. There we go. So what we got here, New York Times Father's Day opinion. What I learned about parenting as a trans dad. So luckily, the newspaper spent the entire day. These are all their articles. One on the trans dad. Here's Alex Berenson covering it all. Cannot make this up either. New York Times Opinion has had 4 recent pieces about fatherhood and masculinity with 6 authors, 3 women, a trans man, and 2 childless men. To my daughter, my gender was never complicated. They have some really good cartoons here too. I'm going to show you some of these cartoons. We got these New York Times published cartoons about being a trans dad on Father's Day. This is how they envision. So what do we got here? You can't grow a beard. You're a girl. My dad did, and he was a girl. That would work really well on the playground. They're really setting people up for success. Although moving past it was hard sometimes. Yeesh, there's their mother with her beard. I'm not doing great. But when my wife and I had Elliot, I had to learn how to be a trans dad. Hey, Dad. Hey. They can move between complex topics. How long did you have breasts for, Dad? Well, I had them for a little while, and then I decided to cut them off. Oh, right. That's nice, but I don't actually tell everyone I'm trans. I save that for special people. We like to keep secrets about our sexuality for sure. Don't worry. I didn't tell them you were trans. That's a nice kid. Good for the kid. You don't want the kids to be not getting along with the parents. That's for sure. So this is all good news. Wesley Yang here has a few notes on it. The New York Times says it's okay to celebrate fathers as long as they are women. That's what we got here. What I learned about parenting as a trans dad. Excellent stuff here. And we have a few more from the New York Times. They had this one. My father's death was the start of my life. My father failed me. Here's how I learned to forgive him. The pain for caring for a parent who abused you. Dads get postpartum depression too. So these are all real stories. There you go. So these are all real stories. And if you didn't have enough of the New York Times stuff on Father's Day, you can go one step further. Canada had it much better than all this trans dad stuff and all these articles by women and how stupid dads are and how the start of your life was when your dad died. Luckily, Canada, as usual, takes it a little bit further. A modest proposal, why it's time to abolish Father's Day. Now, when I hear the word a modest proposal, I feel like it's sarcastic, right? Because we all know the famous Jonathan Swift poem, A Modest Proposal, and that was the solution to eat babies in order to cure starvation and hunger in Europe. It was Irish babies in particular. Obviously, it was a joke. Famous Jonathan Swift, the author of Gulliver's Travels. That's where A Modest Proposal, what it was titled. So whenever you hear A Modest Proposal, genuinely, it signals that it's a satirical article. I'm guessing this is satirical. I'm guessing it is, but it's still funny anyway. So there you go. A modest proposal why it's time to abolish Mother's Day. So I don't think it's pure, real clown world fake news, but it's funny nevertheless. We don't give them the benefit of the doubt, that's for sure. Why would we give them a benefit of the doubt? Here's another one in Canada, and this is about the anti-Semitism in Canada. So finally got a writer to look into it. It's Canada. It's Canadians. New book examines the rise of far-right extremism. No, it's Canadians who are all far-right. Jewish synagogues and schools are being shut at weekly, and pro-Hamas hate marches are now normal. A cop was just murdered by a foreign agent. But two government-funded scholars tell a government-funded reporter that the problem is actually right-wing truckers. That's a Canadian story, everyone. So there you go. And so we saw Father's Day. We got the American approach. It's actually better to talk about it through the trans lens. Then we got the Canadian approach, which is just ban it. These are the same people who think that right-wing culture is responsible for the anti-Semitism in Canada. And our last story in fake news, NPC news today, is all about the World Cup. These are funny ones. The Atlantic. The feel-good story of the World Cup is too good to be true. Some of the people celebrating American excess are not what they seem. There's a whole bunch of these today. They're not enjoying Europeans enjoying America. Not going well. We get this from Seattle. Some Seattle fans have mixed feelings about patriotically backing the U.S. team during the FIFA Men's World Cup, given the actions of President Donald Trump. Yes, yes, yes. The scenes across America are clearly that Americans hate the World Cup. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. And then we get finally this one here, and this comes to us from The Economist, and it is a beauty. European football fans visiting America are discovering the mass affluence of the country's suburbs. The wealth enticing holidaymakers troubles Europeans' elites. America, once a peer, seems to be racing ahead. These are all true. These are all real stories. This is something that happened for real. Sightbringer has a really good take on this Economist article and this whole division between Americans and Europeans and wealth. And one of the predictions I made here, of course, was that vibes would change very quickly when America began to celebrate the 250th anniversary and when we started to see all the world come to America with the World Cup. It's something I told you to look forward to for months. And the contrast principle and all of that stuff, of course, we can see more and more. But again, the contrast principle, important. But I think this whole story of what the Europeans are seeing when they come to America looks a little bit more like what we understand in the Bitcoin world of incentives and worldview flowing out of money itself, and seeing that the money that we use creates a type of psychological engine, which is something that we talk about a lot here. The ability to perpetuate economies and the ability to have secure and fruitful commercial relationships that build things. And we're starting to see this contrast between Europe and the old world of fiat dictates and fiat financial systems and how little wealth they've produced. And what I've told you was one of the big persuasive frames that was coming our way, especially with 250th in the United States, was that the whole winning culture, being wealthy, being successful, being able to build and produce, was actually going to persuade people more than almost anything out there. And it falls into the world of pre-suasion, which we've discussed many times. I've done a whiteboard, of course, on pre-suasion. We're going to be talking a little bit about pre-suasion today. This comes from Bob Cialdini. Pre-suasion, the idea of pre-suasion. Pre-suasion is a formula that Bob Cialdini came from. So if you don't know who Bob Cialdini is, first of all, he wrote a book called The Principles of Persuasion. He was, in many ways, the mentor to Scott Adams in Scott Adams' work on persuasion and hypnotism. Now, didn't mean they were friends. Scott Adams got involved with Trump and the Trump campaign because he perceived and sensed that Bob Cialdini was helping Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. So that's what made him want to get involved, because he noticed that one of these persuasion type wizards was getting involved. And he said, well, now I have a duty. Now, he was not friends with Bob Cialdini. It was just skill and technique and things like that. And one of Bob Cialdini's famous books is called Pre-suasion, where he comes up with this idea of how to not persuade, not the same. He talks about persuasion a lot, but pre-suasion is even more powerful than persuasion because it brings you into the millions, you into that reality. Fiat is a pre-suasion framework, and so is Bitcoin. Bitcoin has pre-suasion baked into it. And part of the pre-suasion around Bitcoin is just like in dollars. If you make money, if you are successful, you have a certain amount of persuasion as a result. So the pre-suasion comes in with building and doing. Building and doing is a much more powerful framework for pre-suasion because you have the example, and the example aligns people's opinions. I want to be like that. I want this. I want that. Now, there's two ways you can take that. And that's why we are now in this world that doesn't look like left and right anymore, doesn't look like Democrat and Republican that we've been used to, or any of the other political divisions we've seen in Europe. We're going more towards the extremes of communism and not capitalism exactly, but something that we understand in Bitcoin, which is do proof of work and build yourself, and don't rely on the edifice of other people working and word thinking and all that kind of stuff. So Bitcoin Deb says pre-suasion is the ultimate PSYOP tool. We're going to talk about that today because it is the ultimate PSYOP tool, but it's one that we now control ourselves, which is what we're going to talk about today. So that's why I put here in the P2P environment that Bitcoin has, and this financial system itself being the survival mechanism within pre-suasion. So the framework you see here, this is the Bob Cialdini framework for pre-suasion. It begins with the privileged moment, and then it moves on to the focused illusion and the assumed causality. This is where much of brainwashing actually occurs because it induces this survival mechanism here, which is your own thought, which is why it is so effective, because it's your own idea of how to survive. It's your own idea of what to do and how to adapt. It's not someone else telling you what to do. They're putting this privileged moment, the focused illusion, and then you get the assumed causality. See, here, this is the frame I used here is in fan baiting in movies. And we're going to talk about fan baiting in movies right now because there's a very clean example with the new Supergirl movie coming out exactly within this formula. So you get the bots saying this stuff, and you get the illusion and then the assumed causality, and it forces people in a certain way to go to bad movies. And we're going to talk about it. Now, Bitcoiners have an answer to the magic trick played on everyone here in privileged moment, focused illusion, assumed causality. This works much better in a top-down media environment. As Bitcoiners, because we exist in this P2P environment, a lot of this is harder. The privileged moment is less exclusive because it's not this top-down funnel. You're going to get a counterpoint pretty quick. The ability to keep the magic trick going is harder because in a P2P environment, you have people who see behind the curtain. You have people who in a P2P decentralized model aren't just waiting from a passive posture. You've got people here, you've got people there, and you've got people with different perspectives who can see the magic trick, and they're telegraphing to you this was a magic trick. So you're existing in an environment without a funnel of information, but with the chaos of information, and you're able to judge things a little more clearly because there is some resistance to a unified, centralized point of view. And that breaks down this assumed causality point of view. And then we create our own versions of this, the privileged moment, the focused illusion, and the assumed causality. We do that in Bitcoin all the time. We show all the time that the Bitcoiner world, the P2P peer world of Bitcoin, does allow you to have a healthier lifestyle, time preference, those kinds of things. And when you start to understand what's really threatening you, it is the dopamine delivery system of the media, the outrage it causes, the division it causes. So while Bitcoiners can exist in this P2P environment, the threat of division is much less because we're already fighting all the time. This is a peer-to-peer environment. We don't have to have a centralized, agreed upon narrative. We can fight, we can do all this stuff. That's the Nakamoto consensus model, being more flexible and adaptable in the time that we're in than the World War II consensus model, which is completely breaking before our eyes. So when we think of all of this stuff and we again go back to this idea of what we're seeing in the World Cup with the Europeans arriving, one of the powerful pieces here is it breaks the Fiat pre-suasion model that tries to judge Americans on their civility or their refinement or are they fancy or any of these things. And it brings it down to an individual level. And change can happen at the individual level because of economics, because of psychology, because of those things much more powerfully than it can on a big group. So having all of these Europeans come over within 2 or 3 people in their group, the Freddies and all these people, and they're observing all of the wealth that Americans have, it's individually changing people's minds at a very rapid clip. And each of these individuals now becomes a node inside of Europe where this Fiat persuasion, pre-suasion model always tried to create a contrast between Europeans and Americans that really was, we're civilized and they're so consumer culture oriented and vapid and stupid and blah, 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 no culture. Like even what the Soviets used to say about Americans, niet kultur, right? They would say no culture. They have no culture. That was one of the main criticisms that Soviets used, and they haven't stopped criticizing America in that way, the communists. They've continued on that line. So seeing this persuasion and then remembering that aligning people, persuading them that a wealth and power and success are ultimate persuasion alignments, but it cuts 2 ways, which we'll talk about in a second. But for the normal people, the ones that aren't gripped with envy and jealousy, the pre-suasion model that we're seeing from the European fans is getting very powerful. Here, Sightbringer even talks about it. He says, Europeans are seeing America without the curated anti-American filter, and it's breaking part of their worldview. That's the pre-suasion filter, right? The pre-suasion anti-American filter was their worldview. A lot of European elites have built their self-image around the idea that America is rich only at the top and socially broken underneath. They see New York dysfunction, LA homelessness, gun stories, obesity, politics, healthcare, horror stories, and assume the median American lives inside a declining empire with worse taste. Then they land in ordinary suburbs and see something different. Huge houses, wide roads, big cars, full restaurants, mass retail abundance, air conditioning everywhere, used sports complexes, warehouse full of goods, families with space, middle managers living in homes that would look elite in much of Europe. That produces a psychological shock because Europe's status story depends on believing it traded American excess for civilization, balance, taste, and social protection. Some of that is real. Europe has beauty, density, history, public goods, walkability, and cultural depth America often lacks. But materially, the American upper middle and middle class suburban machine is vastly richer than many Europeans expect. The deeper mechanism is productive dynamism. America still bids the frontier: software, AI, chips, cloud capital markets, defense, space, biotech platforms, venture, energy, entertainment, logistics, and the companies that define modern life. Europe often regulates, critiques, consumes, and imports the future. That is why the line, Europe buys the future, America builds it, lands so hard. Europe is not poor. Europe is losing the frontier, and that distinction is everything. And they are losing the frontier. This pre-suasion model of wealth that we're seeing here is shattering that worldview that they had, and it's building new ones instead. And seeing these new ones instead, we're seeing why things are moving. Either the Europeans want to emulate the Americans and have this for themselves, or they want to go with the old system, which is communism and theft. And that's why the whole civility of liberal Democrat versus Republican and conservative doesn't work anymore, and why we're moving to extremes of communism versus Bitcoinerism, because we're seeing this pre-suasion frame go absolutely into extremes. And because it's Father's Day, let's remember this is what Karl Marx's own father said to him, now I haven't seen if this is real. People were sharing it yesterday, but I'm going to pretend it's real for a second. It might be. 14 million views yesterday say it's real, and no one has community noted it. So maybe it is. But here's what Karl Marx's dad said. He says, frankly speaking, my dear Karl, I do not like this modern world, which all weaklings use to cloak their feelings when they quarrel with the world, because they do not possess, without labor or trouble, well-furnished palaces with vast sums of money and elegant carriages. This embitterment disgusts me, and you are the last person from whom I would expect it. What grounds can you have for it? Has not everything smiled on you ever since your cradle? Has not nature endowed you with magnificent talents? Have not your parents lavished affection on you? Have you ever, up to now, been unable to satisfy your reasonable wishes? And have you not carried away in the most incomprehensible fashion the heart of a girl whom thousands envy you? Yet the first untoward event, the first disappointed wish, evokes embitterment. Is that strength? Is that manly character? So here, telling him this jealousy model versus do the work and build stuff is really what the political frame is headed to more explicitly than ever. And that's the one that Bitcoiners recognize. Either you do the proof of work or you argue to steal other people's shit out of jealousy. And that's why we're moving to a very extreme version of this transition. But the pre-suasion is failing, right? The pre-suasion is failing. Just remember, go back to what these Europeans are saying coming here, and you're seeing why this optimism of Americans and the building of Americans is so persuasive and is going to, like a virus, spread throughout Europe. So here's just a normal guy coming. I think he says he's from Spain. I don't know where he's from. He speaks Spanish, but I don't know if he's actually Spanish. Lots of people speak Spanish, but here he is in just nowhere, Delaware, right? And here he says, we're exploring a little coastal town in Delaware that we never would have heard of if we hadn't been invited. And the feeling I get is that the wealth that's everywhere in the United States is truly incredible, really hard to process for any foreigner. The suburbs never end. The infrastructure is on another level. There's plenty of space for everyone. Comfort rules everyday life. Yes, local urban planning is terrible, and that's another topic. At the same time, everything feels new. Very little feels inherited. It's no coincidence the stadiums are packed even with astronomical prices at random games. If foreigners don't buy, the locals fill everything up. A huge size, a relatively free economy, and a risk-friendly society shape a world unto itself. Because beyond having the means, you have to want to spend. And here, people spend as if there were no tomorrow. The implicit trust in the future is infinite. And that is even changing too, because as we know, part of that is nothing to do with American optimism. It has everything to do with the fiat structures that are around us. But those things are changing, and they're changing because we're getting an even more explicit version of eat the rich, steal money. You're seeing this alignment become very obvious, and the pre-suasion that goes into it is becoming more and more clear. Jonathan Turley here talking about Adam Schiff and all of the eat the rich, tax Musk, and all the wealth tax stuff they're talking about. Jonathan Turley says, Democrats are now openly pitching direct redistribution of wealth as part of eat the rich policy. Senator Adam Schiff dangled Musk's wealth before voters. $1 trillion, he said. If we decided to distribute that equally among American households, your household would get 7,500 US trash tokens. At least they got the math right this time. Remember the last time you had Maya Gray, or whatever her name is, the illiterate person from the New York Times, and she was there with one of the fake news guys, and they're all laughing about, with Michael Bloomberg, right? It was the money he spent in his campaign, $300 million. Careful if you're ahead of me on the math. That's $1 million a person. And so here you're seeing the contrast very perfectly. And Ro Khanna and David Freiberg had a big fight over it this weekend. Here you see them, two Californians. Ro Khanna, as you know, in Bitcoin, he's been trying to affinity scam Bitcoiners for a long time by being the Democrat who likes Bitcoin. He's also the most active investor, other than Nancy Pelosi, on the Democrat side. And I don't have me. I've talked about the congressional investment stuff. I don't. What are you supposed to do? I mean, I don't mind if you can copy their trades. It doesn't bother me, right? I'm not one of these people. We gotta get the Congress to not invest and be able to invest anymore. It's a big scam. Yeah, it's a scam, but it's a weird job. It's the only job you can lose through no fault of your own, right? Popular president, unpopular president, something like that, and none of your fault, but you're done. So what are they? And they don't get, if they got paid way more money, I wouldn't mind it so much. But as it is, I mean, as long as they have to declare, and what are you going to do, right? I don't mind. So I'm not here saying these Democrat Pelosi's and all that shouldn't be able to invest. I guess they should. I mean, don't really care one way or the other, honestly. It's the least of our problems, I guess, is what I'm getting at. This is a bigger problem when you get one of the guys who does invest a lot saying he's going to go out and take everyone's money. And I don't even mind this idea, right? What he's talking about here with the AI companies, this is something that you've heard JD Vance talk about. I think it is going to happen. I think Sama and everyone, they're going to take a bunch of their profits and turn them into some form of UBI, because all the information was trained with our data. So I think there is probably a case to be made. But the more important thing here is Freiberg saying, I would like to see you make a voluntary contribution of 5% of your family's 200 million trash token net worth to the government for important healthcare, childcare, and jobs. Don't worry, it's just one time. Your $10 million contribution will provide free healthcare for over 1,000 California kids for a year. Once you made your personal contribution to more just and equitable society, I'll support all your other asset seizure ideas, but you got to go first. And David Freiberg here, of course, from the All Out podcast, saying exactly this here in this video. Here he's describing that this is all about the division is between proof of work now, the makers versus the takers. Has nothing to do with Democrat, Republican. This is the new frame. The great lie is that society is divided between rich and poor. The great truth, as David Freiberg puts it, is makers versus takers. Makers build, create, and deliver real value, houses, software, art, businesses, and everything that moves civilization forward. Takers watch, criticize, analyze, and politic. They push the lie that the rich hoard unfairly, so the poor must seize it, all while positioning themselves to rule the chaos. As Freiberg tells us kids, at the end of the day, if you made something and someone else valued it, you were a maker. That was an amazing achievement. That is a great day. Takers thrive on division. Makers thrive on progress. Time to choose your side. And indeed, the takers thrive on division. Makers drive progress. And that really is what the fight is now. Can the forces of division divide faster than the builders creating the new alignment argument, which is wealth? So you got one side saying, you're stolen, you hate black people, you hate women, you're selfish, blah, blah, blah. On that side, so we're going to take your money using the power of the state. So it's a race. It's a race between this communist takers version and the makers, how fast they can deliver progress. These are the new pre-suasion frames. This is what is going to define the modern world. Who can win this fight fast enough? Going back here, right, this whole method of pre-suasion around the communists, the privileged moment is, look, they're really rich. The focused illusion is they stole that money from you, right? The assumed causality is your life sucks and you're poor because they stole from you. Survival is steal it back. Get that money. And that's where you get cognitive closure. Bitcoiners, of course, understand the world does not work that way. People who make and build, as we all know, within our P2P environment, in the end, that's the only way to get Bitcoin, is to build or to help people who build or be part of the building, not the stealing. The stealing is a closed circuit, doesn't work, not a real thing in Bitcoin because of the nature of the technology. You can't do that anymore. So the embitterness, the jealousy, the wealth stealing, and this frame between makers and takers, that really is the way we're going to determine what happens in the world going forward. It's not an argument thing anymore. It is which persuasive pre-suasion frame can actually be leveraged in order to get enough people on your side. Now, the problem with the mentally ill thieves and the takers is that most of their persuasion relies on sludge people, and you're seeing it again and again. Here's Joy Reid, right? This used to be mainstream legacy media. She used to be a normal person. She went to Harvard, all this stuff. Here she is, cross-eyed, retarded, bucktooth looking, saying, "Nobody black I know is." I wish I could do her voice actually, because it's so pathetic. "It's a celebration of slaveholders who freed themselves for having to pay taxes to the crown." Imagine thinking the U.S. Revolutionary War was about keeping slaves. She was considered mainstream media for years. So you're seeing the weakness of the system, and she just looks mentally ill. A mix of low IQ and notable personality dysfunction. It's quite remarkable case representation. This dumb bitch doesn't have a chance to persuade anymore. Like, look at her. She's still rocking the yellow hair. It's a zero. It's a zero. So that one's not going to work. Joy Reid out. And you're seeing the takers, right? You are seeing it work amongst the sludge people. So the sludge people are consolidating on this point. Here, Jason Robertson saying there is a problem many on the right don't want to accept. The left is no longer just like us. They just want to have more welfare, right? Not what's going on. The left is abandoning capitalism, Christianity, and all the values we used to hold as a country, and the right still does. This isn't a difference of opinion on tax policy. The left wants a full-scale reimagining of our country into a socialist/communist utopia they think could exist if we just did it right this time. And here's Harry Enton breaking down what's actually happening. This is only among Democrats, right? But they're way more into the socialism now. So they're getting pre-suaded on this. But we're picking up on the tricks. We're picking up on the technique, right? The pre-suasion technique, because it's not just about building, right? We're seeing the types of subversive framing that's out there. Here is Mamdani again. This is a mayor, right? This is a mayor. He should be thinking about potholes. Here he is talking about what's going on in the Middle East again. Talking about how dark money is used, millions of dollars to divide us, right? So they can hold on to power. And this is Mamdani talking about division himself. That's why we just heard this whole world of the takers is about dividing. If they don't have the division, it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. A great example, again, like I said about the movies, and this is the actual pre-suasion model that I came up with when it was about the movies. And here you're seeing about all the Supergirl stuff. And they're now saying all the fat, balding dudes on X putting in overtime, hating this movie because a woman being the lead of the Snyderverse. One of the most pathetic things on X is this weird group of dudes who just hate anything with women/gun. Or if they have a black person play a role, y'all suck. So they're saying it's that, right? The point, the producers of Supergirl know they created a box office disaster. This is exactly the formula here. You'll see it all. Miley Alcock, she's the Supergirl, was allowed to run her mouth about the patriarchy and toxic masculinity and Supergirl being gay expressly to trigger the chuds on X. 3, when the movie predictably bombs, they get to blame toxic fans for its failure, not the fact that that retarded woke idiots are incapable of making movies people want to see. And that's why this method works, but really nobody cares. And it's not going to, some chuds on the internet are getting mad, but it's not going to get new fans for the communist patriarchal takeover. It's losing them again and again and again. And so the division here is the point, right? The point is to use the division like we sit here. That's the privileged moment. They're the bots, right? And so this was, literally about movies. That's why I gave the 1 star here. This is people getting angry about the racist. This is the privileged moment. The chuds on the internet hate women. And then the folks' delusion here is they're destroying the movie because they hate women. And then the assumed causality is all the bad reviews are really because they hate women. And then the survival mechanism is to go to the movie. That's why they do fan baiting like this. Then you actually go to the movie because it's now political. You're supporting it, right? So that's the cognitive closure point. Again, this is why Bitcoiners and the P2P information environment work so well, because, well, the movie might be good or bad. I don't know, right? It doesn't matter. We're not going to have this fake world where we think that the movie is hated on because there's racists out there. That's what we don't fall for. Doesn't matter if you're more of a Democrat, Bitcoiner, or something like that. You're not going to fall for this idea that it's just hateful people out there. And there might be one or two people who fall for it, but it's not gaining people. It's not the pre-suasion model that allows you to add to the numbers. Chuds, yeah, people saying chuds a lot these days. Lance 2002. I don't really know what it means. I just see it on the internet all the time. So again, the persuasion model here, the pre-suasion model, is this privileged moment and the focused illusion. It's where the P2P environment is so important and is leveraged so heavily in order to protect our cognitive security and protect those things. So we're seeing more examples of this, right? This is not Bitcoiners per se, but you're seeing this top-down structure, the pre-suasion thing, fall apart because we're seeing how people use the influencer crowd, and a lot of people picking up on the influencer crowd manipulation over the weekend, especially with the Iran war negotiations. Everyone here, we have Donald Trump saying not organic. You get all these people saying, oh, it's so embarrassing because the Iranians walked out on JD Vance. I don't know if you saw the videos, but JD Vance was all surprised when they left. The actual video is now playing live. It's out there. Let me see. I think I have it. I can just show you the look on his face, and lots of people talking about it this morning. Yeah, here it is. So this is the point at which the Iranians enter to talk to the Pakistanis, and they say we're leaving because Trump sent a mean email or a text or a post or something. And they're basically saying we're not going to negotiate. And here is JD Vance being told he's surprised about why they're leaving. He gives what is going on here. So now, oh, it's so embarrassing. Remember what I told you about embarrassing? You can't have that faculty. You have to ignore being embarrassed in this world, especially in this time of change, right? It's a superpower. I think as Bitcoiners, we've had to learn about this for a long time. Embarrassment can be really tough, but we all have to get over it because at one point or another, you're going to be laughed at for being a Bitcoiner, and it's happening right now. Bitcoin dying again, of course, but we've been through this before. So you can't let being embarrassed bother you, right? You always got to get over being embarrassed. But here you can see this op, and they're all trying to say that JD Vance embarrassed. He's embarrassed. He's embarrassed. Everyone's saying, and Donald Trump Jr. saying not organic. We noticed. Here was Donald Trump Jr. saying it not organic. We see the coordinated op, and it's not going to work. Everyone's saying he is embarrassed. And then people wondering, here's Buzz Patterson. I get why some of these people are shilling, but what's Buzz Patterson's excuse? And Cernovich here showing us exactly what is going on. Influencer agencies often buy accounts outright or offer to post on behalf of a notable person or do a rev share. Buzz's latest posts are engagement slop while tagging World Cup to try to juice views. So there again, you see this story, the whole use of online stuff, because once you notice that the legacy media, the Joy Reids, have no more persuasion, you got to get into these ops. Speaking of ops like this, and again, this is why the P2P information environment is so important. We're seeing it called out here. Cernovich, a big Bitcoiner, don't know about Douglas Mackey, but this is the P2P environment here functioning. This is someone trying to use the P2P environment on Twitter for their own benefits, but still there is another layer of security, the Nakamoto consensus piece, which is you're seeing enough people argue about this. And even more importantly, it wasn't just Buzz Patterson who was unveiled and outed as one of these persuasive ones. We're seeing the movement against Balaji take up steam more and more. Here, lots of people talking about Balaji and what's going on. Don't know exactly what it is, but I know Cernovich has called out this whole story. Let me see if he's in the comments anywhere here. There it is. Was this promotion of COVID hysteria long past May 2020, when it was obvious COVID was not going to kill Americans, was a CCP op designed to harm America? So lots of people now talking about a Bitcoiner Balaji being scum, and it might be true. Balaji is actively working towards the downfall of America. He's born on Long Island, but is trying to create his own network state to supplant the USA. He fled to Singapore and is rooting for the death of America to boost his Bitcoin bags. I don't think those things are related. He's a literal traitor, yet Rufo and Lomez repeatedly call him a friend. Balaji went on the largest podcast in India and told Indians they need to organize the Indian diaspora for the benefit of Indian internationalism, using the Israel lobby as their model for world domination, except adding that India should aim to be 10 times Israel because there are far more Indians. Yet Rufo and Lomez laugh at the idea that he's motivated by ethno-narcissism. They spend his entire interview letting him lie and dissemble to their viewers about beliefs he is on video elsewhere, clearly and brazenly articulating. They don't even show their viewers the clips where he argues for Indian internationalism. And so this is now I don't worry about India too much. I'm just trying to point out there's a process. I don't even know what's true about Balaji. I'm just trying to point out that there's a process that is going on with this P2P environment where people are calling others out, and you're able to catch people in this, and it doesn't go down as smoothly because you're getting people to be able to notice the differences and pick up on stuff. And in any way, I don't worry about India. This video went super viral this week, but this is the some people say what hell actually looks like, and it's an Indian amusement park. And I don't think these people are taking over the world anytime soon. Okay. Go look at what's going on at the World Cup, and this is the Indian answer. I don't think any of this stuff is going to happen. I've done business in India before. It actually was depressing. When I went, before I went, I thought India would be naturally capable of supplanting China as the manufacturing base in the world and all that. Not after I went there. And I was there 16 years ago, so 2010. And it doesn't look like it got any better. So that's what Balaji's got to that's what he's got to get to work. Again, I bring this up because no amount of Balaji on a podcast is going to change the reality. This is not persuasive. This is hell. Nobody wants anything like this. Hieronymus Bosch vision of hell lives on in this Indian theme park. Looks like Vancouver. Again, the World Cup, persuasive. The Indian Fair, no one wants to go there. No one wants to be there, right? It's a zero, an absolute zero. So the contrast here is what it matters, and it's why things are changing this way. And again, it's also why, Trump, given who he is, go back to the Iran story that's going on right now. Balaji is another one of these people who says that they've lost, America's lost, right? Even the news, but you're just seeing the new way that Trump has used his own persuasion abilities to overcome this top-down Fiat structure, and how the New York Times fits into it, and how this model of persuasion is completely broken. He says here, the headline is, in the corrupt and failing New York Times, what changed after almost 4 months of war? Analysts say not much. Really? Their military is done. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their launching pads, missiles, drones, and manufacturing of same is almost gone. Their top two sets of leaders are gone. Their inflation is at 250%. Their economy is broken. Their soldiers aren't being paid. The Hormuz Strait is open. The oil is gushing, and the U.S. stock market and jobs are at record highs. That's what's changed, you corrupt and unethical cowards, and more. It's good stuff. But that just shows you how weak they really are, these pre-suaders. New York Times losing again and again. Here's another version of how power and wealth actually persuade more than all of the words combined from all of these newspapers. Here they're trying to run a feel-good newspaper article on Mark Carney. Here they say, this week's Politico Mag cover story, how Mark Carney mastered the ugly art of Canadian politics. It's going great. But Ezra Levant, effective, only G7 in recession, no U.S. trade deal, communist Chinese agents active in cabinet, army so weak we're not included in NATO exercises, separatist movement in Alberta, housing crisis, inflation, anti-Semitic crime wave, regular crime wave, brain drain to U.S. Not going great for him. And no newspaper saying it's awesome is going to change that. This Politico with Mark Carney trying to be cool, right? The problem is we have a P2P information environment. We know what is going on, and we see pictures like this. They can put him in a newspaper, but it doesn't help how we see when we see what he's really like. And he's got no persuasion. He's got none. And they're going to try, right? Globe and Mail has to admit, though, unpredictable new phase. Everyone saw Mark Carney giving Trump his chair the other day, sucking up to him, looked so pathetic and weak. Here he is, and this is why there's no persuasion. He's out there trying to bail out condos in Vancouver. Here he is on public record, condo bailout, saying that he's giving 3 billion trash tokens to vacant condo developers that they won't discount. Here he is trying to pay for all this. And indeed, here, a core tenet of capitalism is that if you fail, you lose capital. If you make shitty condos that no one wants, but you get bailed out by taxpayer money, that is the worst of both worlds. That is called cronyism, as the type of rich that you should actually hate. And it's, again, hate it all you want. It's just he's not going to be able to make Canadians drink this stuff, because the poverty situation in Canada is getting such that there's no way they're going to keep people from being angry. Again, that's the persuasion here. That's why success and wealth and building in this environment are more persuasive than the opposite, which is I'm going to steal your shit. Because, I mean, look at Canada's condition. This is the Canadian government is slapping a 10% tax on global imports of canned vegetables in a bid to protect Canadian industries and strengthen the economy. Taxing food as we enter a recession, canned vegetables, something lower, like who's lower income people, canned vegetables. It's absolutely disgraceful. And it's why Canada has zero persuasion left. And that's why they need to censor. That's why they need to do what the UK did. And look how that worked out for them. Here he is crying. Here's Keir Starmer. He's crying. It didn't work out. Here he is saying, I worked so hard. I gave up time with my kids, and now I have to leave, and I'm going to go back to being a daddy, and I'm going to be a daddy. Could you imagine how much this guy's kids fucking hate him? He hasn't been around in 15 years, been doing this politics shit, and now he's going to go spend time with them. He even said he was so hurt. He was so hurt, he said in another interview, with the betrayal. He said it was a betrayal, and his feelings were hurt. He said he missed his kids' teen years. Let me get the actual quote. No, maybe I don't. It says it's not. It says I can't find it. Anyway, in another interview, he says it was so hard. I had to get I didn't even get to see my kids during their teen years, and now he's going to go spend time with them. Yeah, right. What do you think they think? So that's what you get. If you do the Mark Carney thing, you're going to end up like Keir Starmer. And again, the building versus doing here as he's leaving office, and for a million reasons, obviously. One of them, that they're too poor, right? The military, his chief military quit not out of a scandal, because they don't have any money. They don't have any money. And poverty, again, why I'm saying it's the frame that the communists needed was for the fiat currency persuasion model to function simultaneous to the money. But the money is broken, the persuasion model is broken, and therefore the takers are left with just brute force. They can't actually articulate an argument anymore. And what's worse is the other side of it, the makers, the people who build, are getting more and more and more of a persuasive frame. They're getting more and more of a ability to persuade just based on alignment with power and wealth. And again, go back to this story of Keir Starmer. What I find funny, and again, I think this is why Bitcoiners are in a great position to read how the world is operating and why our worldview is so useful right now. It's very simple. It's that even in a Bitcoin exchange, the rates when you're in the business of Bitcoin, which I've been working for Kraken Exchange, for example, they'll say things like the make or taker rate when you're talking about the OTC desk. It's in a make or taker rate. It's the market makers and the people taking. There's a maker and a taker rate, right? So we're already in the world of makers and takers. That's a very normal way to understand markets. If you're an OTC desk and you go and ask, very simple. You just say make or taker, right? And it's a very typical comment. So watching these systems break down this way and watching this happen in the way that it's happening, you can see Keir Starmer and all of these legacy nodes in that fiat system losing persuasion. What's gaining persuasion here is Jeremy Clarkson. You guys all know him. Just battling cancer, by the way. We wish him well. But here, talking about his show, Jeremy Clarkson's Farm Show on Amazon, is the most radicalizing piece of mainstream media I've ever seen. Just one example, bear with me. This is where you're seeing the contrast and seeing radicalizing media that is actually changing the way people view the world. This is the best case scenario in Pre-suasion for builders and makers and everything we know in the world of Bitcoin. Badgers became a protected species in Britain 40 years ago. The population has exploded and now frequently transmits tuberculosis to cows, but farmers can't call the badger population to protect their cattle because the government still considers them to be endangered. Instead of addressing the root cause, the UK has the most batshit testing regime for cattle. There's no TB vaccine, so the cattle have to get tested. The vets administering the test have to measure welts on the cow's neck. Whether a cow lives or dies comes down to a vet trying to discern a 1 millimeter on a caliper, reactive versus non-reactive. If a cow tests positive, the farm already running on super thin margins is quarantined and starts hemorrhaging money. Clarkson's cow, pregnant with twins, has an inconclusive test, so it's separated from the herd. It receives a second inconclusive test, so they have to kill it before it can give birth to the twins. Now, here's the kicker. The autopsy reveals no sign of tuberculosis. It was a healthy cow needlessly killed. So, silver lining, the farm should be removed from quarantine, right? Wrong. It's still under quarantine and has to keep testing and can't sell its beef. Kafkaesque doesn't even begin to describe how fucked up it is for British farmers. And that's everything you need to know right there. That's what is actually going to persuade people now and going forward. This is the new reality. And this doesn't need the word thinking. It doesn't need an Obama library and a whole propaganda thing. It doesn't need any of that. We're seeing the inability of this old system to perpetuate a worldview. It's just about stealing, and all of the edifice and all of the structures around this old world are falling apart that quickly, right? We're seeing it again and again. Let me see what I got here. Hold on, I had a couple extra in here. I don't know why they're there. I thought I took them down. I don't know what happened here. I don't know what's going on with these. One second. Did I see Gad Sad's estimated 200 million estimated cost to leave Canada? I did not. I didn't know he was worth that much money. Jesus Christ. Good for him. Good for him. All right. Well, I lost a bunch of the, I don't know what happened to these. Heard some people a little bit going below 60 again. Do you agree? Yes, I do think it will go. Never go below 60 again. No, I don't believe that. I do not believe that, Chef Zero. My problem right now is that I had a few. There's Clarkson. How the hell did none of these make it there? I had Hillary Clinton. I had Chelsea Clinton. Okay, just a second. Okay. 1 second. Let me see what I can do. I gotta shut it all down. And then I gotta try to start it all up again. No, this stupid piece of shit. Screw it. It's not gonna work. It didn't give me all my I missed a bunch of these. It didn't give me all my tabs. It did like half of them. Anyway, I'll give you the final point for today. Was a simple one. Let me go back to it. I do need the Chelsea Clinton comment, though. I do need to find the Chelsea Clinton comment. No, I can't. For some reason, it's not even letting me search on. Are you guys having trouble with Twitter this morning? Are you able to see anything on? I can see things, but I can't search for some reason. No, I can't. Twitter is just not working at all. Okay, well, screw it. I'll just tell you what happened. So, Chelsea Clinton this weekend went and gave an interview, and she said the following. And this is why we're getting into this world of persuasion and how do you pre-suade and the context and aligning with power and working for me on mobile. Yeah, and it wasn't X is fine on the West Coast. Yeah, I'm just not getting. I'll show you what I mean. I will show you what I mean. Here, watch. If I go to my likes, it's just not letting me. It just says retry. Yeah, it won't let me. Won't let me search them for some reason. Anyway, don't understand why. Doesn't matter. Isn't working for me either, Nolan. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. It might be a desktop thing. Sometimes the desktop doesn't work as well as the mobile, though. So anyway, this is what I'll say. So Chelsea Clinton, this is my last point. So Chelsea Clinton goes to some interview. I forget what it is. She's doing some public thing. First of all, her public speaking is terrible, like really bad, right? And she goes and does this interview, and she says in the interview that they're losing, and she's very upset about the conservatives like Ellison's taking over the media. And her argument is that We have to actually not only change the narrative, she says, we have to overwhelm it. We have to overwhelm the narrative. So she's saying that even though they enjoyed a, however, 30-year monopoly on legacy media and Hollywood, they lost all of that. And now they have to overwhelm the narrative that's being created by Joe Rogan and podcasters and all these other folks and Bitcoiners, right? So she's repulsive to look at. Yes, she's very ugly. But we're not here to make fun of people's looks, okay? So she says we have to overwhelm it. Well, what's the point, right? What how are you going to overwhelm it? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because overwhelming the narrative can be done. You can overwhelm a narrative. It's possible, right? We can overwhelm narratives. Oh my goodness. And I think we're going to overwhelm the narrative, but it's not the way that Chelsea intended. Overwhelming the narrative is pretty much the only way you can do it right now. And when you look at what she's offering versus what is actually happening, this is why they won't be able to ignore and overwhelm the narrative. And what I told you was going to happen as wealth and optimism were aligned over the summer with the 250th anniversary of the United States, the World Cup, and all of this stuff, and this display of American success and abundance, that what that would lead to, this vibes, this alignment, would open the door to all of these stories about accountability and what went wrong last time, and luring all of these people over to see these new systems and to align with power is what is going to actually change the narrative. And if you saw what Tulsi did on Friday, which I said was going to happen, Tulsi came out and underlined the truth that Anthony Fauci created the COVID virus, that the deep state did its best to hide this fact, and that indeed we have been living under this occupied type of narrative, this fake narrative. The same way that Chelsea Clinton said they have to overwhelm the narrative, that's not going to work anymore. This is what's going to overwhelm the narrative. What's going to overwhelm the narrative is the story of Obama. I don't know if you saw the Obama Presidential Library opening the other day, and Joe Biden ruined the whole thing. Joe Biden get lost again, right? You saw Obama try to play the air guitar coming off stage, and then you see Jill Biden go follow Obama off, but Joe is lost, and then she tries to pull him off stage. That's what did it, right? And again, needs a vacation in the Caribbean. So because here it is, right? Here's what Tulsi found in Obama's server sent to 14 sitting Democrats. Delay the certification, block the border bill, ensure the laptop stays buried. Legacy media not interested. It wasn't just that. You get this one too. Muslim gang rape, 250,000. 250,000. And this is apparently even out of date. Like that, this was like 15-year-old information. Evidence that Fauci funded gain-of-function research with tax dollars was made public. Illegal aliens tried to blow up White House UFC event. Oh my God, did you see the algae in the reflecting pool? It's not going to work. There's more interest in killing these people. There's more interest in dropping them from space than there is in any of these other sludge people stories. That's why the news is moving in this direction. That's why when I keep arguing that pre-suasion is actually just about which system is making more money, which system is indicating more power, people will align with that, not the arguments. You need the word thinking of Fiat needs this system. The actual building system, the alignment system, the power system that the Bitcoin P2P network aligns with naturally, that can function with Nakamoto consensus, because it doesn't need everyone to agree, that it can perform in an uncoordinated way and still move forward. That framework, because it produces more wealth, more energy, more abundance, is what's going to win. And you're going to just continue to see people peeling off into that world, in this old world of fiat pre-suasion that might have worked at one time. It might have worked on Star Wars. It's not going to work on Supergirl. No one's going to fall for this. No one's going to go see the movie because it's a gay thing or whatever. It's just not going to work. So that movie is going to bomb, and that's what's going to go on. It's not going to change anyone's mind. And you're going to see more and more the world change along these lines. And so that's what is going on, folks. We are doing great. And the pre-suasion frame fallen apart. Agree. I don't like to comment on the video, but I make an exception for her. We'll let you do it for this time. Greetings from Pensacola. Oh boy, woke up to $65,000 Bitcoin. Been feeling like a kid before Christmas for about a week now. Anyone else having this feeling about Bitcoin? I always do. Sure do. He's back. MKE 55 years of Juneteenth and so peaceful this year. Now 364 other days. You got it. Canada and USA are becoming India. I don't know about that. We just entered the golden age. Yeah, we've been in the golden age for a while, Plebin. And I'm glad my golden age mascot is here. We need the golden age mascots. You got to get a costume, like a golden age costume. It's got to be like shining. You strike me as a person who's just shining optimism all the time. You need the costume. Texas has been taken over by Indians. I don't know if that's true, BTC Plebinator. We don't know. But if you want to see the Indian hell video I made or I showed earlier, go have a look. Yeah, GadSat's $200 million. But, I'm not... wealth taxes are complicated. Our exit taxes are complicated. They're complicated business. They are a complicated business. All right, folks. Count BTC rocks, even without Roxum. We love that. Thank you. RIP Roxum. Okay, folks. That is about it for me for today. As I told you, we're going to be doing shorter shows. I got stuff to do today. Got to get on with the golden age. I got some golden age stuff I got to work on. I'll be going on Brandon Gentili's podcast later today. Thank you, Escape the Matrix. Okay, folks. We don't do the logo anymore. We are the news now. Chatelet all. Thanks, Nolan. You got it. Peace and prosperity. So I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Thanks for a great show today. You got it, Jack2K. I will be on tomorrow. Not Wednesday. It's our major #1 holiday here in Quebec. It is the Fête Nationale, the great St. John the Baptist Day in Quebec. We celebrate the national holiday of Quebec on St. John the Baptist Day here. And so we're going to be doing that on Wednesday. It's the 24th. And so only a slight tech rant, tidy show today. You got it. That's what we're doing. Tight and tidy. We're going to even be a little shorter than this. This was some of the disorganization of the new systems. But we will be aiming for tight and tidy going forward. The 2-hour format, not tight, not tidy. Not tight, not tidy. That's what we got. Dave will be good Indian food in India. Sure is. Sure is. All right, folks. See you later. Great show, Nolan. Bye. Bye, everyone. Okay. As I said, we will be back tomorrow morning. Same time. We should not be late going forward, or we should be rarely late going forward because it's an easier show for me to produce. And Twitter doesn't help when it's down. No, it doesn't. That's fine. And we will be back tomorrow, everyone. So tomorrow, yes. Not Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, yes. All right, everyone. Peace. Take it easy.